Hello, everybody. Welcome to GM Chat with Mike and Jeff here on Twitch, Artifacts Worldwide channel. As you can see, I'm Jeff.
And hopefully, as you can see, I'm Mike.
Yes, I think we can figure that out. We look different enough that people will be able to separate the screenshots, you know.
Well, you don't want to leave out the lesser learned.
Well, that's why we put them up on the screen
Gotcha.
so people can see. So, uh, this show basically, we talk about different facets of gaming in general. We spend a lot of time talking about Dungeons and Dragons because that's what got both of us started in role playing. And I'm pleased to announce that next week, if everything works out, we'll have our first guest.
Hmm.
And it's somebody that we have both played under when he GMs, and he has also played when we GM. So he definitely he's definitely one of us. Let's put it that way.
And has been doing it for a very long time.
Yes, like us. Um, I will say right up front, if you have any questions or comments at any point throughout the show or afterwards when this ends up on YouTube, feel free to ask questions or make comments in the chat while we're live, or leave them as comments on YouTube, and we will do our best to answer them. You know, the answer might be we don't know, but
Not likely.
not likely.
We got an opinion on everything.
That's true. Yeah, for the last 10 minutes, we've been debating the merits of Star Wars The Force Awakens because I decided I wanted to rewatch it this morning.
And the demerits.
Yes, yes. But the topic we settled on for today's show is simple. It's something that every player has, it's something that every GM has, and that's pet peeves. Things that
Hmm.
just manage to get under your skin. And we're going to talk about that since we've both been involved on both sides of the DM screen for so long. We're going to talk about it both from a DM perspective and from a player perspective.
Hmm.
So let's start off with from a player perspective.
Sure.
You know, what are some things that you've encountered playing in games run by other people that really got under your skin, got on your nerves? Well, however you want to put it.
Yeah. Well, and let me say that this is all very subjective because everybody has different things that drive them crazy.
Oh yeah, but that's
And
the thing. Everybody has stuff that drives them crazy.
sure. And but what drives me nuts, some people thrive on. But as a player, I have one big one. It's one that just really stands out that will get me to get up and leave your table. And that's bully GM.
Oh yeah.
Now let me clarify that. What I mean is any GM that apparently, I won't act flat out accuse any GM of this, but apparently likes to beat up the players.
Yeah.
That's their job. And they will fudge dice rolls. They will um, pad their monsters or the bad guys just so that the players can't win. Um, and that's one thing. Another one that drives me mad. That's in that same vein is um, a GM who has his world and his NPCs and it's their story, and the players are just supporting that. They're not there for their story. They're there to support the story of the GM's main, heroes.
Hmm.
And so, being the plucky sidekicks, the players go in, get in trouble, and the GM's heroes have to come in and save the day at the last minute and rescue them.
Yeah.
My golden rule as a GM is that the players are the heroes of the story.
Yeah.
They're not the plucky sidekicks. They're not the stormtroopers of the storyline. They're the main characters. They're the heroes. They should be that. And I think that in my case anyway, as a player, I want to feel that way when I play my character. I want to feel like, no, and I'm not saying, you should just throw things at your players to, you know, appease them or anything like that, because part of feeling like you're a hero is actually being in real danger.
Right.
And there will be times you do fail. The dice will see to that.
Yeah.
But in the long run, in the ultimate, you're the hero. The hero. And it's that simple. And if you don't feel like the hero at the gaming table, I'm not going to play, because that's not what I'm looking for. But it's stuff like that's my pet peeves as a player.
Yeah. For me, one of the things that I don't enjoy, I suspect, comes from something that I do enjoy, and that's Critical Role. Critical Role has kind of become the new gold standard for...
Kind of?
Well,
sure.
Yeah. I'm trying to, not completely fanboy all over Critical Role.
Sure.
But, that is a masterclass in role-playing. Both from a DM perspective, because Matt Mercer is quite frankly amazing.
Yes.
But the cast, the players, are equally as amazing. But you also have to take into account that they have an incredible support staff behind them. They know that, it's something they do for fun, but it's also something that's a job for them.
Sure.
And because of that, they're going to, you see them all. I mean, they're just taking copious notes all the time. And between the 7 of them, they usually have whatever it is that Matt brings up. But one of my pet peeves as a player is being in a casual game, and worse, a casual game that doesn't meet on a regular basis. And then being asked to recover some obscure piece of knowledge from something that, may have been fairly recent in the campaign, but it was literally real world years ago. And, my memory is awful these days.
Hard drive's getting full.
Well,
the processor's slowing down.
You saw the movie Johnny Mnemonic at some point, right? That's pretty much what happened to me when I took my comprehensive exams for my PhD. I literally overwrote long-term memory in order to memorize stuff, and it's gone. It is absolutely gone. And, stuff that my wife remembers clear as day, I'm like, that never happened. And she's like,
Yeah.
yes, it did. And I will not believe her until I talk to other people who were there and they go, yeah, we remember that pretty clearly. No, it's gone. Gone.
Hmm.
So, and I try to take notes, but, I'm there for the fun of it. I'm there for the role playing aspect of it. And to do the amount of note taking that they do on Critical Role would make it feel like I was back in school, quite
Sure.
honestly.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's not why I play.
Right.
So, you know,
And
as a yardstick to measure by, Critical Role is that is sort of the pinnacle of what I think a lot of people aspire to. But, those people are gaming in a different situation. And I don't think
well,
that works for a casual game.
They're also playing every week,
Yeah.
you know, and when you're in it every week, your head is in that space at least once a week, for 4, 5 hours at a time. It's still all pretty fresh. Even things that happened months before, um, because you've been kind of following along in the story with your character, you can still, okay, that, okay, yeah, I remember when that happened. But yeah,
I suspect it has something to do with being in the same space every week with the same people
partially,
every week.
yeah. There is one other thing to that as well, and that is, and this is to their credit as players. Every one of them are engaged and attentive,
Yeah.
even when it's not their time to shine. When it's somebody doing a you know dream sequence or whatever it is. It's a uh, individual portion of the game that can go on 10, 15 minutes. All of the others mostly are listening, and they're you know in it.
Mm-hmm.
So you know that goes a long way to it too. But that's because they're there every week and they do the thing. When it's a casual game, like you're saying, and you don't meet regularly, and it was something that happened years before, which frankly is wild to me. It's like how long is the campaign you were in, but uh, whatever. I mean, yeah, being expected to remember something like that, yeah, that
Well,
would
when
be
I
an
was when I was in college, when I was an undergrad, we had a campaign that literally ran for like 5 years,
yeah.
and myself and another game master who I'm hoping we can somehow get on this show at some point. We would trade off because he worked construction. So
Hmm.
during the school year, basically, he was able to run. But right around the time that, you were headed into the last few weeks of school, his job would kick back up. And that's when I would take over. And I would run through the summer and pretty much until the first snow.
hmm
And then we would switch back. And that worked really well. But it was the same group of people for like 5 years.
wow.
Yeah. And it was a huge freaking group of people too. There were like 12 people in that group.
Ugh.
Yeah, yeah. Combat
Well,
took
we'll address that
forever.
in a minute. We'll address
Yeah.
that.
Um,
um,
Go ahead.
oh no, I was just going to say. Uh, I don't remember what I was going to say now.
Oh,
See,
well, My
There we go.
other pet peeve kind of crosses the line because it's a peeve of mine as a player and as a GM. Probably more as a GM, but definitely as a player. The dice are there to provide the element of chaos, the element of random chance. The fact
Sure.
that nobody pulls off everything perfectly every time. And
Right.
so, when I am,
Yep.
trying to
Last
attack
night.
something and I, like in the game the other game I'm playing now, it's a 3rd edition game. I'm a 13th level ranger.
Mm-hmm.
And so, there have been times where I'm like, okay, I get 3 shots with my, my compound strength bow, and I roll a 3 and 2 4s. And I'm like, nope. That's this and this and this. And the GM will go, sorry, none of those hit. And I'm just like, son of a bitch. You know? And then everybody's like, wow, you're usually better than this. And I'm like, I know. I'm usually better than this. Blame the dice.
Yep.
But then to have somebody else in that group who somehow they never miss. They never fail a check or a save. And so they succeed at whatever they're doing every time they try something. And it's not the fact that, they're just that lucky, they're fudging their die rolls.
Sure.
And if you're in a group where everybody's doing that, it would be one thing. But to be in a group where the majority are rolling and kind of going, oh crap, no, that probably doesn't hit, and then have
Yeah.
one person who's just perfect every time. That kind
Well-
of destroys the story balance, if not the game balance.
Right. Yeah, I don't know what you could do about that as a game master. I mean, the game master, I guess, is the one who needs to address it if it's a problem
Right.
to his game, to his table,
Or her. Yeah.
or her. But the thing is the problem with that is, if you don't see the dice rolls,
Yep.
how do you call them out?
Right.
Well, you never fail. That's highly improbable,
Yeah.
I guess, is all you'd have to say. So you either your dice is not balanced correctly, or you're deliberately, changing your dice rolls when you announce them.
Right.
So, something, so whatever. I don't know what you could do if it's a problem. I guess as a player, I would approach the GM and say, this is an issue for me. I don't see the dice rolls, but this is an issue, and I'm not having much fun with it. So, it needs to be addressed. And, if it's not a problem for your table, that's great. But I'll go to someone else's. I'll go somewhere else.
Yeah.
And I guess that's all you can do.
And I mean, there's an obvious
If it's that much of a
solution.
problem.
There's an obvious solution to a situation like that as a GM, but as someone who collects dice, I absolutely hate it. And that is have everyone roll through some sort of shared online program like Roll20 or the dice rolling feature on D&D Beyond.
Or there is another old school method, and that's that the GM rolls all of your dice rolls for you.
Oh, yeah? man, that would be a headache.
Yeah.
Well, yes and no. I mean, it's an extra thing you got to do, but you know, it takes out all of that drama.
Yeah, yeah, that's true.
But that's my solution to it, which isn't always physically possible, especially this day and age. I like gaming at a table, right in front of God and everybody.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I prefer to
And,
do it that way
um,
whenever possible.
right. Um, and I haven't done it that way in a long time, long time.
Nope.
But I miss that, and I prefer that. A
Yeah.
lot of those kind of people do not.
Yep.
So uh, that would be another means. Although, like I say, in this day and age,
Yeah. I mean, you going back to Critical Role, you see that, you know, I mean, Laura rolls something, and when they were all at the same table, Laura would roll something, and Sam would lean over and watch,
yeah,
or Caleb or Liam rolls something, and Marisha leans over and looks, just because they're
yeah.
curious,
Hmm.
you know. Yeah, yeah. I just did a quick count in my head. It's 5.5 months since I've actually
Right.
been able to do the in-person role playing.
Now, in person is something different too. Like in your case, a lot of them, because there's so many that play, they just sit around your living room,
Yep.
and there's no table really involved.
Right.
I'm talking about sitting at a table, like you're like no more than 4 feet from anybody in a given time in the table.
Yep.
Um, but you know, anyway, I guess yeah, that can
I
be annoying.
suspect if I
You know?
tried to put a gaming table in my living room, my wife would have something to say about it.
Well, you know, she can stand outside.
It would
Sorry,
block
Annette.
it would block her view of the TV in the corner when she's laying down on her
Right.
couch. So that's where the issue would come.
Right.
But
Well, she needs a she shed.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, she just she
But
she she just takes over whatever room she's in. That becomes her area. So
right.
the one
All
place in
right.
the house she's
Well,
not allowed to do that is this room.
right.
That
Yeah, I don't get that luxury.
I mean, my niece calls this my lair, and I love that.
Hmm.
She'll be like, "Where's Uncle Jeff?"
Yeah, I don't have that luxury.
He's in his office. Oh, he's down in his lair. Okay.
We have a 2,600 square foot farmhouse with I don't know how many rooms. It's a 5 bedroom house. There's 3 of us that live here, and I had an office. Not anymore. This was my room, the gaming room, but that's kind of turned into a everybody room,
Yeah.
especially since the pandemic and everybody has to stream. This is where all the streaming stuff is.
Right.
Um, anyway, I digress. So now, what about as a GM? What is one of your biggest pet peeves?
Players who hog the spotlight.
Yeah,
Players who always are the first to jump in and say, Game Master, my character's doing this. Or
right,
they're always the first to yell out their initiative. And I'm like, wait,
right,
I will ask for initiative. And,
right.
if it's the first couple times you've played, that's one thing. But, again, if this is in a long-term campaign and, years in they're still doing this,
Mm-hmm.
that gets annoying.
You know, it's funny. I don't know that I don't know that I've ever had to deal with that. At least not like, as a where it's become a problem. Um, Everybody's pretty good around the table all of my tables that I've had. I don't recall, but I mean it's been so long. But yeah, but yes, that would be a pain in the butt.
My other big pet peeve
But easily
is,
remedied.
yeah, well, my other big pet peeve is when you have a combination of, uh, well, for lack of better phrases, power gamers and role players. And the power gamers always want to step on the role playing scenes because they get bored.
Um, Actually, I saw a thing not too long ago on YouTube. One of the DM guys said that you can do it. It's tough and it requires a little bit of uh, uh, patience on the part of the players. But if you can put in your game setting equal portions for everyone's play style,
Mm-hmm.
when you get into a scene, you try to accommodate the role player, the power gamer, and the uh, uh, puzzle guy. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And he had a pretty good. It was pretty good thing. It would be very tricky. You would have to get adept at it. It would be a skill you'd have to learn as a GM. But he ideally the way he had it laid out, it could be done. But I have a pretty good system for weeding that out, and that is before we even get into session zero, when I'm recruiting players for the table, I let them know ahead of time the type of game it's going to be, the type of campaign it's going to be. If it's going to be the hack and slash dungeon crawl murder hobo, I will make sure I'm like, look, if you're looking for role play in this, there's not going to be a lot. This is going to be okay. There's the dungeon nearby. We're going to it. We're cleaning it out room by room and getting all the money. That's what it's about. Or if it's role playing, you let the power gamers know. I don't know if this is going to be for you because you're going to be expected to play your character. You're going to be expected to uh, devise character development and interact and socialize and maybe even go 2 or 3 sessions and never draw your weapon,
Yeah.
just so you know ahead of time. Then if we get into the game and they're bored or they want to go out and kill something, um, then there's no sorry, get in your character. You know, do something meaningful with your character. Come up with an idea, come up with a personality quirk, come up with something. But this is what the game is. Otherwise, you know, but
Yeah. I guess I've been in a couple games where there was no explicit expectation stated at the beginning. It was, hey, let's play.
right, right, right.
And then you
Well,
get into it, and some people are involved in the storytelling, and other people just want loot. They want violence and loot, and that's it. And so
well,
when stuff slows down for the story elements, the games that I've been in, the GMs were fine with with role playing and story elements, and in fact encouraged that to a certain extent. Um, but there are some people who just don't get into that at all and get
Then they're
twitchy.
not in the right place.
Yeah.
They're not in the right place. They need to go find a table where that is and that's fine. That's back in the old school, a million years ago when we were playing D&D, that's the only way we knew to do it. We had our modules, and the modules, boom, 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 boom.
Yep.
You know,
Yep. And if
the game
some,
hires you to go clear out this dungeon,
yeah,
and that's what you did.
if some, some character development or some role playing happened along the way, hey, that was frosting.
Right. Yeah, but it was by and large, okay. We walk into the cave, go down the corridor. First door, kick it in. Let's go. You know,
Right.
and that's what it was. We wanted to throw dice on the table and do all that. As we became a little more,
Seasoned.
yeah, I was going to say, well, it was a little degrading, so I'm not going to say it, but sophisticated.
As
let's say.
as we mellowed.
Yeah. Well, and as we got to a point where, wait a minute, we can get a little bit more out of this game, and most of us that played back then were extremely creative people.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we were like, we can actually tell stories with this. Cool.
Yeah.
And so it became that. And with the onset of, as you said, Critical Role and the style where it's, very much character driven and story driven and narrative, that's sort of become the norm in the game now. And I love that stuff. Love it.
Yeah.
Especially as I get older.
Well,
But
I mean, it's the difference between watching an action film and watching an epic.
yeah.
An action film is just going to be, blow stuff up, little bit of conversation, blow more stuff up, a little bit more conversation,
Right.
blow everything up.
Yeah. Rack up a body count.
But an
Pretty much
epic,
it.
you have those moments of, extreme violence, but you also have those moments of, reflection and growth and
Right.
decision gates the characters come to, and they have to make choices.
Yes.
Other than
and,
which corridor do we go down,
Right. And they have to weave their relationships together. How does it fit? How does such and such interact with such and such? And, what's the dynamic? That's part of it, and yeah, and it translates beautifully into D&D, I think, or in any role-playing game for that matter.
Yeah.
But
some more than others. I think, there are certain ones out there that it doesn't really work with.
well, then it's not a role-playing game.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a tactical strategy game. So.
Yeah.
But so moving on to one of my
Please.
giant pet peeves as a game master. This is probably, and you are going to know full well what it does to me. Unattentive players.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Especially in this role-playing thing.
Yep.
Especially in that. But even back when we were doing a lot of the power gaming stuff, if I'm trying to explain to you what's going on, where you're at, what's happening, or it's so-and-so's turn at the table to throw dice, and he's trying to figure out what he's going to do, and which leads me to another minor pet peeve, but he's taking his turn, and everybody else is jibber jabbering and talking about stuff or not paying attention or whatever, thumbing through their book and reading, bugs the crap out of me. And I always had a good solution, especially for the power gamers. This was always very potent. Something that I call the Blue Bowl.
Do you remember the Blue Bowl,
I
Jeff?
do.
Yes. So the Blue Bowl, it was this big bowl, or well, it wasn't necessarily a bowl. I had lots of dice, like lots of dice,
Yeah.
big container in my dice box. And if I needed to get players' attention and bring them back into the game, I would open the dice box and dump it out, and whatever all of the dice added up to, that's how much damage their character took. And once I did that, all I had to do after that, when they were not paying attention, is just pick the bowl up and shake it. And bam, get their attention immediately because they knew what was going to happen. But the point being is, if I had to do that, I was already annoyed. I was
Yeah.
already irritated.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But now in role playing, you absolutely have to have everyone's attention. If someone is having their moment, like we were talking about with Critical Role, everybody else is focusing on that story. They're listening. They're watching the movie happen. You know, they're behind the fourth wall and they're watching the scene, and they should be paying attention to it that way.
Yeah.
It's not an intermission. It's not a chance to go phone a friend or anything like that. You know, you pay attention. Pay attention.
Yeah.
You know,
I have
so
to say,
that's like a big one for me.
I have to say, I was really impressed last night in the Lands of Acathan game, because the first hour was pretty much Arabelle's trial, but everybody else was paying attention to what was going on. You know, because they knew this was a big moment for her.
Sure. You know, and it's not just a matter of respect for the player and the game master especially, but it's an opportunity to be invested in other players and other characters.
Yeah.
And it's an opportunity to cheer them on and to be a part of the story, you know. And you know, if you only care about what your character does and what you know, when their time comes, if that's all you're interested in, then you're not really interested in playing D&D or
Right.
anything like that with anyone else. You know, go play a video game. You know. But going back to what we was talking about earlier that I said was we would get back to, another pet peeve of mine is too many players.
Oh, yeah.
You know, if there's too many players as a GM, well, both GM and player, but as a GM, I try to keep a small table. You know, the tops I'll allow is 6 to 7. That's maximum. That's pushing it even that much. Because it goes back to the first problem that I have. If you have that many people, they're not going to keep their attention that long on one person taking their turn.
Right.
Because by the time the turn gets back around to them, you know, it's been 20 minutes, a half an hour or something like that. They don't, you know, so it's hard to keep their attention. So I just don't like having, you know, 8, 9, 10, 12 people in a party. It just doesn't make any sense. You have 2 complete gaming groups there. Why would you combine them into one?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, I remember.
you take half and have somebody else take the other half, and you each run your own games.
I remember one time when I was in undergrad, somebody had decided that they were going to do a massive, like, sort of brawl of armies
Yep.
with miniatures. And they had this huge map, must have been like 8 by 15 feet. And We spent 6 hours playing that game and got through 2 rounds
Ugh, exhausting.
because there were so many different people involved, and each person
Mhm.
had so many different moving parts that had to be
Sure.
dealt with.
Yeah, that's the last thing you want is a clunky game mechanic and too many players.
Yep. Yep.
But
Yeah.
so those are my GM pet peeves.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I mean, obviously, there's the annoyance of, we've all done this, is you craft some extraordinarily clever arc or event, and they either skip it or find a loophole you didn't think of and breeze right through it.
Here's the thing though with that, with me as a game master is, um, if I spend, well, it's one of the biggest reasons now I don't spend a butt ton of time coming up with these elaborate, detailed story arcs and things, because you can spend a lot of time and never get to it.
Yeah.
My philosophy more is, and I have a lot of experience improving games. Uh, what I like to do is, okay, just come up with 3, 4 basic ideas for plots. Just like maybe 1 or 2 sentences and a few bullet points, and some NPCs that would be involved, and especially with D&D Beyond now, because you got 4 or 5 of those. It doesn't matter what directions the character goes in. You can throw something at them.
Oh, yeah.
You can come up with some storyline, and you just follow that branch, take it where it goes, and maybe eventually they'll come back to some of the other ones you had, or you can repurpose them later, or whatever. But always have 3 or 4 different little, just little ideas, and have a vague direction of what you want to do with it, and let the players go. And have a contingency if they say, well, we don't want to do anything, we just want to sit around town and just kind of relax. Great. Have something where the city is attacked, or they get accused of some crime and the guards come to get them. There's all kinds of things you can do.
Yeah.
But
That's
coming up with things on the fly is kind of fun for me.
that's what I've started doing is the last several years. If I do put something together and they end up going a different direction, I just set it aside and figure out how to work it into a different scenario later.
Sure.
So it doesn't go
Yeah.
to waste.
Um,
It may just not get
right.
used where I originally intended it, but it'll get used eventually.
Right. But module writing, where you get to that level of planning out an adventure, where you've got every room, what monsters in it, what treasure is in it, what the plot line is, how they're going to get there, how they're going to do this. Not, unless you're intentionally doing something like that, or you're building the campaign around that, it is not conducive. It's, well, modules are exactly that. They railroad players,
Yeah.
and that's kind of a faux pas these days in D&D. But if everybody at the table understands, okay, look, we're going to run this module, or I've come up with this big adventure that I want you all to go on, so play along.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Or even you stumble on an abandoned castle. If it's something that's in some sort of physical structure, there's only so many ways a group's going to be able to go through it.
sure.
So sometimes just the nature of the environment means you're going to have to corral the players a little.
Yeah, and there's different things, because I've done it quite a bit, where you can kind of shunt the players in a certain direction sometimes without their even
Yeah.
realizing it. Um, you know, uh, Now I have had this happen before, where the players will uh, go to an area, and I've set the scene, and they're like, I don't think we're ready for that yet. We should come back later and do this. And I'm like, I'm not going to put anything in your path that you can't handle. You know,
Right, right.
been doing this a while.
Yeah.
But
Well, it's like in the where we are in the Cathan right now. The idea was for you to go from point A to point B. How you chose to get there, I had contingencies laid out for all of the possible routes.
mhm.
Just so if you decided to go all overland, I was ready for, to handle that trip. If you decided to go pretty much all water, I was ready to handle that trip, in any combination thereof.
Well, and I like too how you did the whole thing in the begin with, where you gave us choices. You know, we could go with the Army, we could go with Viesa, we could try to just do our own thing and go that route if we wanted to. But we had the options.
Yeah.
You didn't say, okay, you have to go with Viesa or, I will force you to. That wasn't what you did. And I liked that. That was a good idea. And so you already had in mind which way, what was going to happen, whichever path we decided.
Yep.
And so, yeah, and then you went from there, and that's the way to handle that for sure. Um, but gee, I don't know what some other pet peeves I've got, because I've got quite a few.
I know one.
I mean, those were the major ones,
Going
but
going back to being a player, I know one is what I call the what is the name of that game? Hold on. Yeah, Skyrim. Skyrim syndrome, which is where you are pretty clear on what the main quest line is, and then you are also presented with 24 possible side quest ideas. And the gamer in me, I'm very task oriented, so if I know what the primary mission is, I'm like, no, I don't fucking want to go investigate that swamp. We're supposed to be saving this village. Why are we even considering going over here or over here? We're supposed to be going there.
right.
And what's even worse is when you get a game master who, for whatever reason, keeps trying to push you off on the side quests.
Yeah.
And, that gets really frustrating for me because I see, what's the big picture? What are we supposed to be doing? How best are we able to do this? Why are you trying to distract us? I don't understand.
Right.
And that was one of the reasons why I could never get into Skyrim, was because I lost. Like, the first time I tried to play it, I think I tried to play Morrowind, which I think was the third version of it.
I've never played the game, so I don't know.
I got into it, and I got through the intro and got out into the world and suddenly realized I had the foggiest fucking idea what I was supposed to do.
Yeah.
And
no clear.
Yeah, and that kind of, complete open world. I deal with that kind of uncertainty on a day-to-day basis in real life. I don't need that in my video games.
See, now for me, I should really try to play the game, because for me, that's perfect. I don't care about your storyline. I want to make my own storyline. I don't like being
Elder Scrolls.
Yeah, I got to follow this, and if the replayability of that is almost negligible.
You should
being
definitely
able to,
try Elder Scrolls.
Yeah, I may have to try it one of these days.
Elder Scrolls 5. That's the one that I actually got through.
Gotcha.
because I went
Well,
into it knowing that I wasn't going to get a big main storyline and that I would have to sort of seek out stuff.
yeah. See, my thing is, I like that idea of the open world because I'm an explorer. I like to go, when I'm playing, I'll just go around and just look at stuff and see the graphics and
Well,
explore and see what I can find and
once I knew that was the idea, I was fine with it. Like, for a while in this time slot, I was doing Recovery Wednesday and playing No Man's Sky, which I happen to adore. And No Man's Sky
hmm
is, there is this very nebulous sort of storyline that you sort of follow as you go through. It's more like you keep tripping over like the next elements of it, but
hmm
literally you can do whatever you want, and it's a
yeah,
equation based generation algorithm that generates an entire universe. You won't live long enough to visit every planet that they generate in the game.
yeah. See that I like that though because it's fine playing through a set storyline,
Yeah.
but when it's over, then it's done. You're waiting for the next one to come out. There's just no replayability or very little replayability. Um, for me, a game like that is eternal fun. You can get more for your money out of a game like that for me. So, you know, um, like I said, I like to explore the places that everybody passes by and doesn't look for and see what they got. What did they do? What do they got in here? What do they put in there? And immerse myself in the world. I just like doing that. I
Yeah.
have GTA 5, and to this day, I've had it for a year and a half, and to this day, I've never even come close to finishing the storyline in it. I don't even care about the storyline. I like doing my own thing. I like going places and seeing what they got. It's a big world, big map, so there's plenty to see. It's just fun. You know.
Yeah. And
But
and
anyway,
and I'm fine with that unless you've given me some sort of like overarching task to finish and then expect me to be excited about, all of these other little side quests.
right.
At that point, I'm just,
Um,
it's just a distraction. I'm just like, no, I don't want that. I want that. I want to focus on this. This is the important thing.
yeah, yeah. Um,
We can go back and do the side quest after we finish the important thing.
but going back to pet peeves,
Yeah.
um, uh, like I said, I have several pet peeves as a game master. Unprepared players. It's one thing if you've never played before,
Sure.
but if you know how to play the game and you show up and don't know the first thing about how your character class works, come on. If you're a spellcasting class and you've never played spellcasters before, I'll cut you some slack
Sure.
for a while. But, once you get up to fifth and sixth level with your spellcaster class, you should know how the system works. And you should know when you get new spells, you should probably read them and know pretty much what they're going to do when you get there.
Yep.
You know, because that slows the game down and that's really a pain. Combat is fun, but it's not fun if you're sitting there waiting for somebody to read their spell uh, description and decide if that's what they want to do. And then especially when they read through it, they're like, "Oh no, I can't do that." So I need to. And then they go to another spell and start reading that, and you're just like, "Really?" You know? Yeah, that gets in my craw.
Yeah. Well, I have played under some GMs who, they give a certain amount and then they say, "Okay, 10 seconds, figure it out or you are just holding this turn."
Yeah. Yeah, that's one way to sort it for sure.
Well,
Um,
it's not fair to the rest of the players.
no, it's not. That's not fair to you as a game master. You're trying to pace this thing. You know, you're the one responsible for the pace.
Pacing?
And
What's that?
yeah, uh, that's when you eliminate characters from the game because you need it to move along quicker.
Right.
I
Oh gosh, meteor fell from the
don't
sky.
know that
Boom. Roll a melee
I don't know
class.
that I've killed any characters. I've threatened a lot, and as anyone who's played in my games know, I'm certainly capable because I don't really have a qualm about killing characters. Some GMs do. They are a little squeamish about it. They don't want they don't want their players to be bummed out or whatever. But I mean, I'm like the dice do what the dice do. You know, and especially in D&D, it's like, come on, if you die, unless you're a low level, you're not staying dead.
Right.
So, bah. And especially in fifth edition, it's so hard to kill players anymore. You know, uh, a lot has to go wrong for a player to die. You
Although
know,
it can still happen.
oh, it certainly can, but it's a series of unfortunate events that lead up to it. It's not.
Yep.
It's not even a single dice roll that can kill a character. Now there are things in D&D that can certainly insta death,
Oh yeah.
but in terms of just getting clobbered, you're not. It's very, very. The odds are well in your favor of never having to die, and even if you die, coming back isn't that big of a deal.
Right.
So
Yeah, in the
it's
game
not that scary of a thing.
in the game I'm playing at the moment, my character has been in negative hit points probably 4 or 5 times. So he's come very close, but hasn't actually died yet.
Yeah. Well, they got the death saves thing, and it's like, eh. You get what, 3 death saves or something,
Mm-hmm.
unless something catastrophic happens
Right.
while you're down. Um, but yeah, that's my pet peeves, big time.
Yep. Yeah, and like we said at the beginning of the show, everybody's got them.
Oh
Everybody's
yes,
got something that just makes it not as much
Mhm.
fun as it could be.
Right,
And
right.
the thing is that as a player, you a lot of times just have to kind of suck it up and keep going if you want to continue playing in that game.
Exactly.
So,
That's a decision you have to make. Is it bad enough that you want to try to find something else? You
yeah.
know.
Where it where it gets a little dicey sometimes is when you end up talking
No
to
pun
other
intended.
players in that campaign and it has gotten to that point for them and they're ready to step away.
Well, then they should.
And you have to be like, well, okay, we could try this, or we could do this, or if you really want to go, you can go.
Well, yeah, I guess. My thing is if you're not having fun, it doesn't. I'm not going to talk somebody into staying because you want to keep the group together. That's just not me. If you're not having fun, you shouldn't be playing. You need to be in someone else's game at another table.
Yeah. Either that or change the way you're playing so that it is fun. Because
Well, I
that's
suppose, but
that's one thing that I think people forget as a player is that yes, you're playing in somebody else's game, but to a certain extent, you have autonomy over how your character behaves and what your character does and how your character
of
reacts to
course,
things.
of
And
course.
if you're not having fun, change it up how you're playing the character.
Yeah, to a point, I agree with that, but This goes back to, well, what did we all talk about at the beginning of this? Is it a role playing? Is it is a power gaming? So, you should have known going into it. Now, there are different styles and types of gaming and so forth that you may not know until you get into the game. But it's fine if you're like, look, this really isn't for me. I'm going to step away. You guys have a blast. There's nothing wrong with that. There's no drama there. If you're not having fun, you shouldn't be playing. Is there something else? But you should definitely be looking. Is there something else I can do without compromising my wants and desires out of this, where I could have fun with it? So you have to explore that. But that just comes with, are you having fun or not? Because 3-4 hours a night on the weekend, that's a lot of time to invest in something and not have any fun doing it.
Right.
When you could have fun somewhere else. So no, I don't begrudge anybody who wants to do that. That's fine. If you're not into it, don't do it. That's cool.
Yeah.
And that's how I approach it as a game master anyway. My style of GMing isn't for everybody. I get that. You know?
I'm sure
it's
mine
not.
isn't
I mean,
either.
I'm my running style and game style, by and large, by the RP community at large, vast majority doesn't like the way I run games. That's just, the way it is. But that's how I like to run it. And I don't need everybody in the RPG community to come play in my games, so.
Yeah, too many people. All right.
There are certain ones I would like.
Oh, well, yeah. I have a dream. I have several.
Yes.
Guest players in the Acathan campaign. Yes, I have several, but they shall remain nameless, Matt Mercer, mostly.
Oh, there are a group of people who have a standing invitation to my gaming table anytime they wish. Mm-hmm. So.
Yep. All right. Well, that's our hour. So, hopefully, like I said at the beginning of the show, we'll be back next week with our first special guest, another longtime player and GM that we both have experience with. We'll have to see if this time works into his schedule. If not, we may record it ahead of time and run it at this time and let you all see it. But
yeah, and I'm definitely looking forward to some of the guests that we have in mind. Most of which no one in the community would know, but they're very interesting people who have very interesting things to say.
Yeah, we talked last time, and we've got a list. We've got a dream list, and then we've got a reality list. So,
Yeah.
Yep. All right. Well, this
we shall see.
Yeah, this week's programming on this channel concludes tonight, 7 p.m. Eastern U.S. time, when we go Sith side on GameStream and re-invade the world of Star Wars: The Old Republic, 2 Sith and their hired bounty hunter taking the world by storm.
Yep.
So we'll be back for that, and then
you stab them, you slab them.
Yep, and then our week of programming kicks off once again on Sunday with Board Remotely at 3 p.m. And the rest of the schedule is available on our website, artifactsworldswide.com. Just click schedule, and you'll be able to see everything we're doing and when. And remember...
And click on... I was going to say, you just click on all of our links on our website. Check us out. Check out our Twitters and...
Yep, you can get to all our social media
Instagrams,
from
all
there.
that stuff. Yep. And put your questions, whatever you have, comments, criticisms, whatever you got. We'd like to hear from you. We'd like to know somebody's watching all this.
Yep. And whether it's here or on YouTube or both, like and subscribe, please. That would be great.
Yes, very much.
And
That definitely helps us know.
yeah. We'll see you all next Wednesday at 1 p.m. Eastern U.S. time for more GM chat.
Yep.
So, have a good week. We'll talk to you later.
See ya.
Bye.